with the device, I kept on going, and my blood pressure is now in pretty normal ranges. I'm in 120 over 70, 75. Sometimes when I get activated by something, I'll go to 135, but it's staying in those normalized. And I've managed to cut my medication back in half to where it was before it started going up to the 180s, 190s. So I'm back to that level of medication.
Hey, Annette, thank you so much for spending time with me today.
And good to see you, Tracy. Thanks for having me.
You as well, doll. So can you tell us a little bit about where you were before coming to QHS?
Well, in terms of my health, I was having a lot of issues with blood pressure. I had been, say, 2 years before that, had basically been in bed because I had a adjustment by a chiropractor that was forced, and my lower disc went out. I also have the appearance of spinal cord impingement in my neck in 3 or 4 places, plus outlet nerve syndrome impingement, and also disc disease throughout my spine, and narrowing of the spinal canal in L4, L5, and sacrum. The disc is pretty much gone.
Oh my
So
gosh.
for about 2 years, I was just laying in bed, helping the disc heal, and I was in a lot of pain if I tried to move or get out of bed or feed myself or do any of that. And I started getting better from that after the bed rest. But what happened during those 2 years is I developed diabetes. And before the whole disc thing and the diabetes 2 diagnosis, I had had a heart condition and had a stent put in my heart, and I had a 95% blockage on my carotid artery, which I had a surgery for and rotor-rooted. But in between the heart stent and the rotor-rooter job of my carotid artery, they put me on statins. And it was a heavy-duty statin, and the doctor said, unless you take this, you'll die. And so, having that news, I took it for 4 months until I was in such agony and couldn't walk and had no muscle strength. I could barely get myself out of bed. And I took myself off, and I went, okay, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die. I can't live. If this is life, it's not worth it. But what happened in that is that a side effect of statins is a potential side effect that I wasn't informed of, is that you can get neuropathy. And so I got terrible neuropathy. So in the subsequent years, it has become increasingly difficult for me to walk. When I came on, so I was able to walk again with my spine. I was getting stronger from the disc problem, and my blood pressure was elevated, and that continued to happen. I mean, I came in on February, and by the time May happened, when we were about ready to start getting the devices, the first device, I was pretty in a hopeless state. It's like, okay, if life's going to be in this pain, I'd rather not be here.
Oh gosh.
And I had lived a good life. I'm 70 now, and lived a far better life than I thought I would have from my childhood. So I was also glad to, fine to go back home, but the thought of living here was not so pleasant with what I was dealing with. And I've been dealing with this pain since the diagnosis on my spine from 2007. And I had had a mercury poisoning, which had also affected very large mercury poisoning, and babesia, which is a Lyme-based parasite. So I had gone through extensive treatments, and but I had lost my ability to think through the mercury poisoning, and I started getting all of that back. And but I still probably have some of that poisoning left in me, but I ran out of the funds to do anything about it.
Oh.
So by the time I got the first device, I was going, okay, I don't want to be here if this is the way it's going to be. And even with the first little device I had, the first thing was hope that came back, the energy of hope. And I can't tell you how important that is to switch the perspective of all you've got to look forward to is crap, to the hope of a better life. Because with all of the different things that I've had dealing with, basically Western medicine didn't have the answers. And I had done a lot with energy work to maintain myself, because I do energy work and therapy as a living, and I needed my brain. So all of the medications that Western medicine recommends for all of these different things would totally have shut off my ability
Sure,
to
that
track
makes sense.
energy. So when that first little device came, and it was the hope that got restored. And then during that first month of the device, I was feeling my blood pressure, maybe it was the second month, and the first week of the upgraded device, right? The bigger, larger device from the first device. And my blood pressure had been at 190, 180, and the doctors couldn't get it down. They had doubled my heart medication. I was now on 3 different blood pressure meds, and they couldn't get it regulated. They put double, the doctor said, this is the highest we can give you on this one. And so I finally started to balance out between the device and the raised medication. And then I was going to the bank, because I thought, okay, my blood pressure is back down to about 135 over 80, it's safe for me to go out again. And I went into the bank parking lot, and I got a guy ran into my driver's side door.
Oh my gosh.
And when I had the diagnosis for my neck and spine, one of the things the doctor said was, just don't get into a car accident going over 5 miles an hour, because you could become a quadriplegic or die. So needless to say, my blood pressure was a little bit, because that's the first thing that flashed in my head. And oh shit, I had just gotten my blood pressure back down. So that set me back a bit with the jar from getting hit in that way. And I don't think he was going 5, maybe 4 miles an hour. But a lot of that, right, that scripting that goes on with what doctors tell us, is possible and what to watch out for, can be so limiting, and it's true. I've seen my MRIs, my neck is a mess, how it appears. And the reason I'm using the word appears is that I don't want to anchor it in.
Yeah.
And so, but it's a lot to deal with emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all of these different things. And so then with the device, I kept on going, and my blood pressure is now in pretty normal ranges. You know, I'm in 120 over 70, 75. Sometimes when I get activated by something, I'll go to 135, but it's staying in those normalized. And I've managed to cut my medication back in half to where it was before it started going up to the 180s, 190s. So I'm back to that level of medication. My blood sugar, I get the A1C tested, and it's come down, and I'm just about due to do another test, and I'm sure that will come down again, because I can tell that before I had to make sure I was eating every 2 to 3 hours. Otherwise, I would get shaky and things would be off. And now I can, yesterday I was in meetings or something, and I realized that, you know, or something happened yesterday where I was just not eating, you know, didn't get to eating. And I realized before I would have to be so on it. And it was 6 hours almost since I had eaten anything. And I didn't have any of those, like my brain getting totally fogged out or my shakes or anything like that. So I can tell
Nice.
that my blood sugar is better, as
Oh,
well as the
good.
tests are validating that. And certainly my telepathy and kind of knowing, you know, when family members joke, I have a friend that says, watch, I'm going to think of Annette and she's going to text or call me. And so they even have tested me on that, and then just had their partner start laughing because, you know, I'm responding to them.
Fabulous. I love that.
Yeah, because of the upgraded telepathy abilities. And so, you know, and spiritually, of course, I have a spiritual practice that believes that everything is oneness and that we're all connected. And so that is also just, you know, having myself back, my connection to my soul back, because the physical is not so omnipresent in distress, has allowed
Mhm.
more of the integration with my soul and my body, because my body was not any place that I wanted to be before because of all of the pain. And so I'm embodying better into my physical, which is creating a better relationship with my body in terms of allowing its wisdom to take over, because of course our bodies do know how to heal us. It's just that they get a lot of mixed messages, and sometimes those mixed messages come from all of these things that have happened, you know, whether, you know, it's the poisoning that's put in our foods from, you know, not eating organically. And years ago I switched over to eating organically, but even then it still can be difficult, because you think you're having good things and then you find out that the wrappers are somehow not made with good things, and you
Right.
know, and then which country they come from, and then is the labeling, also all of those things. But we try as best as we can to eat well, and certainly the QT wave devices help with, you know, sort of directing that impulse to treat ourselves better, to go for better things. And, you know, and when we really get in touch with our bodies is when we can listen to our body's wisdom. And
Mhm.
sometimes if I need a particular vitamin or something, all of a sudden, even though the messages are, oh, don't eat carbs, or don't do this, or don't do that, my body says, oh, there's something in that that I need. So I follow that. And so as much as possible, I eat organically and then follow my body's wisdom for what it's craving in one way or another. And then, you know, then we try to make better choices given that what the body's wanting. But that also happens.
So your intuitive abilities are able to help you go in and see what you need. And I'm hearing you say that the medication that you were on was taking away that ability, but now it's back and strong and good.
Well, it's the medications they wanted to put me on would have taken those away. And that's why I didn't do it. But that's also, when the pain gets past a certain life and you're working on yourself, the pain gets beyond a certain level, I should say, and you're working on yourself, it's more difficult to hold that focus when you're dealing with the omnipresent agony.
Right. It probably makes you really focused on the 3D self when you're feeling that pain, right? You're like stuck. I would think that you would be so stuck with that 3D experience that you kind of may forget what you really are.
Yeah, it's much more difficult when you're in. And I think people who have had chronic pain have a much different journey than sometimes when you have just pain that happens from a sprain or something, and because then that can get resolved more. But when pain goes on and on and on, there's an entrainment to that, and that's when people don't want to be in their bodies, and because being in the body, it means being more aware of pain, and that can become a vicious cycle.
Wow. That is very interesting. I mean, I have never felt that kind of chronic pain before, but how is your pain level nowadays, Annette?
Well, considering I was laying in bed sometimes in agony of screaming in pain from the legs and the feet, it's come down. The neuropathy pain is still here. But I can get to sleep more easily at night, which is great. And what my experience has been is that, we have updates on the devices, and sometimes those updates can, shift how things work for a while. So I had a sleepless night the night of the upgrade, and then it's sort of my sleep pattern has gotten off from then, so I still haven't gotten back to that nicer, deeper sleep yet. I'm still waking up and in that intermittent. So but last night I got a good 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep, which was great.
Yeah,
And
do you think that sensitivity to the upgrade is for everyone, or people who are just more sensitive to the energy?
I think that you can't make a statement that for everyone,
Okay,
for anything,
right.
because it's such an individualized journey in terms of people's illnesses, what they've been facing, how old they are, what they've been aware of in their life. I've been in the healing arts for 45 years. So,
Wow. What kind of energy do you do? What kind of healing do you do?
well, for years and still am a therapist. So I've been a licensed therapist since 1985. So that's a lot of years. And then
Yeah.
over the last since 2000, I started going into doing energy healing as well, and then came up and developed my own process, and that I was doing and teaching workshops, and
Cool.
doing that very similar to what Key is. So
Yeah. I like that key classes. Those are great.
yeah, they're very wonderful. And Laura and Christine, I've known for quite a while, and they are very good at what they do. And so I'm glad to be working with them on that.
Yeah, I love that stuff. All right, so let's kind of shift gears here a little bit, Annette. So we've seen all this trauma, all this pain, suffering, and it's getting better, thankfully. So, because you always seem joyful when I see you, so clearly it's working. But now we get to experience the Q arc.
Oh,
And isn't it exciting, right? So imagine that you get a do-over, right? So all the knowledge and wisdom that you've gathered through the years, you get to take that and apply to a new body. What are you going to do different?
well, first of all, the most important thing is that my family has not been able to see me very much, or I them. So I've got nephews that say, when are we going to see Auntie Annette? And nieces that want to play, and friends that would love to do some of the things that we used to be able to do. And so being able to be with them is the most important thing. The thought of being able to play with those guys, and just give them a run for their money.
You go.
That's the first thing. And being able to be with friends and take walks and go listen to music and laugh and enjoy each other's company. All of those things that, we take for granted when we're young. I haven't been able to do for years. And luckily, I have friends that love me and come and sit in my garden and do things like that. But I have recliner chairs that I can have out in the garden or in my house. And they know that I can't sit for very long at a time. And they've been willing to be there.
They love you.
Yeah, I'm very blessed with the love I have in my life. But boy, would I love to give them a run for their money. I'd love to go, water skiing, zip lining,
Cool.
motorcycle riding with them. I'd love to go on backpacking trips. I'd love to, be able to stand and cook them things that they love, that are recipes that everybody else cooks of mine that they would love to have. I'd love to just laugh and play, go swimming, splash them in the river, and have a good time, go boating again, taking them, tube running, and, all of those things that I've loved to do in the past and would be fun to do. And then for me, I'd love to take all of that energy and wisdom and find ways to help my community more, which I have also not been able to do because of the lack of my energy. And there's so much need, especially working with PTSD and people with chronic pain. It's not easy. And I found that with people who have not experienced that, they just don't have the compassion or the patience and the thought that this technology will help with people with chronic pain and PTSD and some of the mental disorders that have basically been sort of written off and, have been a bother to anybody who has to deal with them. Because of the acting out, because of, it's difficult to be around people that are, drug addicted or that, have different kinds of personality disorders. And the thought that this technology could help those people, the amount of suffering that would alleviate is. And already that we've seen some of that happen with our membership is just beautiful. And to have the ability to help get that relief to people who've been suffering for years and years and years and years, or all their life with some of them, is just what an amazing gift that we can bring to humanity.
Yes.
I just am so touched and so looking forward to that day to be able to help bring that comfort and that compassion and that ease to people's lives. It's just
Well,
wondrous.
isn't this what you were born for, Annette?
Absolutely.
Your passionate purpose, you came here for that, I feel.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, I always knew as a child that love was the answer. And I remember saying that to my family when they were all going after each other. And I just go, why can't you guys just love each other? And they were traumatized by war, traumatized by their childhoods, and then by the Second World War and cruelties beyond imagining. My father had been in a concentration camp. He had been in the underground, and my mother had been in the Blitz in London. And my older brother and sister had been the children that were taken from London and out to the countryside. So they had abandonment from leaving their, my mother and going out. And then they had to leave the mother that they had learned to, love and then come back to my mother. And so
Oh,
they were so traumatized by the time they came to the States. And to have the end of war, would be so delightful. And to have the ease of all the post-traumatic stress that has happened through families and the lineage of PTSD and the trauma from war and displacement, and to have those things and those people so that we don't go to war anymore, because war is not something that is to be raised to some patriotic anything. War is hell, and the effects on people that have been in war is hell. And to have a way to help all of the people that went to fight for their countries or to left because their countries were more engaged with money than on compassionate lives and living. Everybody around the world wants their kids to be safe, wants clean water, good food, and to live a loving life. That is a universal value. And to be able to help with that, yeah, that's what we came to remember that we're divine sparks and we're all one. Regardless of color, regardless of where we get born, we're all one. We all have that common universal process in life. And to bring us to that, to remember our connection, to remember that we're one. Wouldn't that be nice?
we're nearly there, my darling. We are so close. And just think, I mean, your dreams that you shared about at the beginning with connecting back with your family and friends and being able to play, that's this summer.
Isn't that amazing?
So exciting.
And so, and dancing and to have all of that come about and to be able to do that again, dream come true.
Yes. A far cry from where you were prior to the hope.
Far cry. Yeah. And I've still got a ways to go, and that's where the art comes in and in the home healing system. So I'm anxious to see how much better I can get so that I can take all of that love and passion and have a body that can hold it and move with it and bring it out more.
Mhm. I can't wait. I would love to see you water skiing, girl. That would be so fun. I'm gonna have to come up there.
You betcha. Jet
Awesome.
skiing.
You're the fun aunt. I don't have anybody in my family like that. My aunt was never like that. So you're the fun aunt. Good for you.
Yeah, it's fun to be with, when my body was okay, it's fun to be with the kids and do that and watch the joy in their eyes when they, go out on these different adventures with me. And yeah, it's a
That's
lot of
beautiful.
fun.
Well, Annette, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your amazing, incredible story today. And I'm sure the listeners are going to be so inspired and can't wait to see you on those water skis.
Yeah, there we go. Well, they'll see me on a jet ski probably first.
Fair enough.
All right, sweetie. Well, thank you so much for the time today, and thank you for everything you're doing, and we appreciate you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. I got the best job in the world.